Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Wow, okay. This is really loud. Am I loud? Yeah, I feel like it's really loud. Caleb, you don't need to turn me up. This voice travels. I'm Pastor Angela, and I am speaking today, and I will go ahead and tell you how that came about in just a moment. But if this is your first time here, I kind of say it every time I speak, but please come back. If this is your first time here, please do come back. Pastor Cody and Pastor Terry do an amazing job preaching, and you definitely want to come back and hear them. So I'm the amateur of the team. Do yourself a favor and promise me that you will come back to hear them. Before I get started, I want to say hi to Pastor Alana, our worship pastor, and her husband, Tony Vaca. It's very good to see you guys here today. Now, I was reminded how much I love and miss Alana because I was sitting in front of her and I had her beautiful voice behind me, and it almost made the terrible voice that I have drown out a little bit. So thank you for that. That was very special. No, it was great. I missed your voice, and it was lovely to be in front of you. But we love you guys, and we're happy you're here with us this morning. So our current series has been called Planted, and we have been talking about the importance of connection and being planted. We know Pastor Cody talked about how important it is to be rooted. Pastor Terry last week spoke on the body of Christ, how important it is to be plugged in. This series that will be finishing today, the topic today is friendship, and we will be finishing this series in hopes that we will all see how important and how valuable it is to be part of the life groups that we were launching. This was a very intentional series, so we hope that it has blessed you, has made you see more clearly how important it is to join a life group, and hopefully today it's the cherry on top to that. So I want to tell you a little bit about Friends and how I came to be speaking today, because we plan these series in advance. If you know Pastor Cody, he's a huge planner. So things are planned well in advance. And every week we go over the upcoming message and we kind of brainstorm together, like, do you have any good thoughts on this? Do you have any good thoughts on that? What do you think? And we kind of just brainstorm to help each other out with ideas. So last Monday, just a few days ago, we're sitting in Pastor Cody's office, all of us, and we're brainstorming about the message, today's message, which is friendship, that Pastor Terry was supposed to be preaching. So Carissa, being a good friend that she is, says, we're brainstorming and we're writing down our ideas, and then for Pastor Terry, and Carissa goes, Ange, you should preach this. You and Gina have the perfect example of a great friendship. Why don't you preach on friendship? You're a good friend. And I'm like, and you're not. Well, then, another little fun fact for today, I'm leaving for a few days. We're going to a minister's event, and Gina is watching my dog. I got a new dog. You probably have seen her around here. Someone told me today she's my accessory. So Gina's going to watch my dog while I leave my dog here. And I wrote some instructions down for like her feeding, her watering, her walking, kind of stuff that she likes. So I just bring it into Gina right now, and I'm like, her name is Clementine, but I call her Clemmy. Here's Clemmy's stuff. And she was like, are you serious? Because it's 2 pages. She's like, I'm not doing this. And then she's like, I left less instructions when I left my kids for a weekend than you're leaving me right now for this dog. And then Eric was in the nursery with her, and he's like, I'm sorry I can't hear you because the helicopter is so loud because you're a helicopter mom. And then I was like, you guys are lame, so I go to leave, and Gina's like, come on kids, let's everyone do helicopters around Pastor Angela. So that was this morning. And then two of you have told me to make today's message quick, to specifically wrap it up and make it fast. So I want to tell you, as we start this message on friendship, if you are not getting thrown under the bus by Carissa, if you're not getting made fun of, if you're not getting told to hurry up, then do you even have friends? That's what I want to know. Do you even have friends if they're not keeping it real with you? So that's how this came about. Before we get started in this message, I kind of want us to define what friendship is, because we have grown very, very accustomed to calling kind of acquaintances my friend. Like, oh yeah, that's my friend. So I want to kind of get a definition in our mind of what differentiates a friend versus an acquaintance. So just a generic definition from Google, and Google knows everything, right? A friend is someone with whom we have a deep emotional bond, trust, and loyalty. They provide us with support, share common interests and activities, and play a significant role in our lives. On the other hand, an acquaintance is someone we know casually with limited interaction and limited shared experiences. So I remember two particular seasons and times in my life when I was really, really yearning for friends or true friendship. And I wanted something deep. I didn't want just basic kind of level friendship, but I was looking and needing something deeper than that. And as we talk today, I'm going to go over both of those times and those seasons. But I want to first kind of set the stage for what we don't do very well in our friendships. 3 reasons we are not so great at friendship. Who's happy they came to church this morning and you get to hear how you're not doing a great job? Anybody? Yeah, there we go. But 3 reasons we kind of struggle in making friends. One is we are too busy. We have so many things going on with our lives. We are so busy, and some of us are task-oriented, so we gotta finish the task before we can hang out. We have to do ABC. The other thing is, how many of you parents out there, former or current, have kids that have played sports? You have a full-time job in your kids playing sports. Sports has changed so much since when I was a kid. When I was in high school, I played 4 years of basketball, 2 years of tennis. I know you can't tell by looking at me, but I did. And so I played sports all through high school, and literally, we had practice after school for like an hour and a half, and then we had a game. The bus picked us up at our school, took us to the school, we played the game, we came home. Now, you got kids playing sports, and they have to travel to Spain to have a weekend game, and then come back. Your sports with your kids, you guys are so busy. It requires nearly a full-time job just to have a kid that plays sports, and heaven forbid if you have 2 kids that play sports. That's not even talking about the money that you guys are paying for these kids to play sports. I hope they become famous and give back to you. I really do. But anyway, we are so busy. And then we have jobs, and then we have husbands and kids. I don't, but you do. And we're doing all the things. And so the last thing we kind of do, and the last priority we have, is usually friendship, right? Another reason that we struggle in friendship is social media. How many of us are on social media? There is no shame today in this room, but we are on social media, and how many friends do you have on social media? 500, 300, 200. It is so bad. And I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to me too. I was thinking about this message. I literally met a lady at a coffee shop who had a dog for adoption. I wanted to meet her dog. She's like, oh, here, follow me on Instagram so you can get the updates. I follow her on Instagram. I later on got Clemmy, but I now get this lady's updates when she goes on vacation. She's studying to be a nurse, by the way, just so you know. I know her boyfriend. I know the other dog she has. I don't know this girl. If I saw her in a store, I couldn't pick her out, even though I've met her. But that's kind of how so many of our friends are on social media. We don't really know these people. These people aren't going to show up for you. I mean, how many of us have seen people posting stuff on social media that's like, hey, I could really use some help because, I can't pay my rent or whatever. You know that nobody is reaching out on Facebook to help these people pay their rent or show up for their tire or anything else, their flat tire. In fact, one time, several years ago on social media, someone had put, hey, my husband and I have been married 5 years. We never went on a honeymoon. It would be so great if you guys could donate to my GoFundMe so that we can go on a honeymoon. You should have seen the people that were blasting this poor girl. People are mean behind the keyboard, I'll tell you that. They were so mean to this girl, like just blasting her for asking for money to go on a honeymoon 5 years later. Tony and Alana, you guys might want to consider that. But people are just unkind. Those are not your friends. They are not your friends. And I don't mean that rudely, like obviously some of them are your friends, but I guarantee you, you're not living a life the way that we define friendship, investing in 500 people. It's just not happening, right? I have friends on Facebook, I don't even know who they are. You're just like, did I ever meet that person? I don't even know. Funny enough, UC Davis, secular school, this is not a Christian study, UC Davis did a study on the impact of social media. And they said that social media, especially in younger people, has been found to cause an increased level of both depression and anxiety. Social media does that. Funny enough, this same study that UC Davis did, do you know how they said you can combat, giving ideas of how to combat that anxiety and that depression? Hang out with your friends in person. That's a study done by UC Davis. Hang out with people face to face. And our first point was that we're too busy. Well, guess how much time in 2024 that the average person spends on social media? On average, a day on their phones. 2 hours, right, Pastor Cody? 2.5 hours, like 2 hours and 34 minutes. Good job. That must mean that's what you do. But 2 hours and 34 minutes a day on social media. But it gets better. Guess how many hours a day people spend on their phone, on screen time? Or iPad. You're not getting out of it if you use an iPad instead of a phone. Close. 6 hours and 40 minutes a day on average on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, on your Android if you're lame. Pastor Terry. 6 hours and 40 minutes a day. But some of you, you're above average. You do a better job. You do even more. We say we're busy, but are we really that busy? That is a lot. And you know what? Again, not throwing stones here, because I don't want that app on my phone that tells you how much average screen time you have, because I feel like a big loser when I look at it. But another thing, the final thing of the 3 reasons that we struggle in friendship is we don't really keep it real. I think part of that is linked with social media. You know how they say you basically show the highlight reel? Like, how many of your friends have you seen on social media talking about how much they love their husband, but you know the real because they're your real friends and you know that they're struggling? Or you have friends that are posting all of their fancy vacations and everything, but if you know them as a real friend, you know they're struggling financially. We struggle to keep it real. Even when we take pictures, we have filters on pictures to wipe out the zits and make us thinner, and I'm not complaining about it. I like it. I need the help. But we don't know how to keep it real with one another, to be authentic, to have real relationship. To sit across from someone. What's our most common thing when someone says, "Hi, how are you?" You say, "I'm fine, I'm good." Is it true? It might be. But let me tell you, if a woman ever says she's fine, she's lying to you. She is not fine. She could tell you she's great, she could tell you she's bad, but she's never just fine, just so you know. But that's kind of how we engage with one another. We're fine. We don't keep it real. We don't let people in for various reasons. I think part of it is we're scared. What if they see me? What if they know me? What if they know my real struggle? What if they know how I really feel about something? What if they know about that thing I did that was really terrible that I wish I could forget? What if they see that? What if they see my house and think it's dirty? What if? And we're scared to kind of show who we really are to one another, and so we're not authentic, we're not genuine. Those are kind of some of the 3 reasons why we struggle in friendship. But now I want to talk about 3 ways to build genuine friendship. We just said not being authentic. So the very first thing is be real. Be authentic. Now, obviously, you're not going to go up to someone and be like, yeah, I'm really struggling with, whatever you're struggling with. And it's really awful and terrible. Like, you want to have a relationship, a friendship with someone. But in order to do that, you have to be real. You have to be authentic. One of our great examples to me is Jesus. When we read through the Gospels and we see the humanity of Jesus, we see someone who is so real and so authentic. We see someone who shows passion when he's flipping over tables, and we see someone who is moved with compassion when people are crying and needing healing. We see a realness about him. We see a realness in calling people, you brood of vipers. And so Jesus lived with the 12 disciples, right? For about 3 years. We don't have definite dates, but about 3 years. He became a rabbi at 30 because that's when you can become a rabbi. We know he performed miracles, walked among the earth with the disciples for about 3 years. And in those 3 years, they did life together every single day. Every day they did life together. They had meals together, they fished together, they walked along together. Every day they were together. And Jesus is going to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's going to pray. And so I want to take a look at Matthew 26, 36 through 38. Then Jesus went with them to the olive grove called Gethsemane, and he said, "Sit here while I go pray." And he took Peter and Zebedee's 2 sons, James and John, so he took 3 of them with him. And he became anguished and distressed. And he told them, his friends, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and watch with me." My soul is crushed. I'm in a really, really bad place, even to where I want to die. Even to the point of death. Will you stay here with me? Will you be with me? That's being real and authentic. That's letting his friends know his struggle. And it wasn't just like a random stranger, like I said, but it's people that he did daily life with. And even more, he took those small group of 3 people and did that daily life with. The next thing is we really need to be present. You have to be present for one another. And I don't mean on social media. By the way, social media is not the devil. I'm not telling you that. You don't have to go delete your Facebook accounts today after church, unless you want to. But be present. In Proverbs 17:17, the Bible says, "A friend loves at all times." At all times. Now, if you look at Proverbs, there's 80 scriptures on being friends and friendships, so there's a lot out there. But a friend loves at all times. When I was in college, one of the times, I remember at the beginning I said there's a couple times in my life where I really longed for and needed friendship. So I go to college. I move 6 hours away from my family to Southern California to go to college. I've never been away from my family like that. I don't know anyone. And I'm going to this campus of people that I don't know to now live for 4 years. That first night in the dorm room, this is for all of those that have little babies in college and that just took off, but that first night in the dorm room, I totally cried in my bed, quietly, because I was homesick and I missed my family. And within a couple of days, I was laying in my bunk. I was on the top bunk, which nobody wants to be on the top bunk, but I was on the top bunk. And I remember praying specifically and asking the Lord to please give me a best friend. I had never had a best friend. I had lots of friends, but never someone like super close. And I was like, "Lord, will you please give me a best friend? Will you please just give me someone that I can feel close to, connect with, someone that helps me grow closer to you?" And the Lord so very sweetly answered that request with a yes. And most of you probably know, just like Carissa pointed out, that's Gina. We have been friends for, I think, 26 years now. But the Lord truly, truly answered that request so very sweetly, and it means so much to me. But what she did was Gina was present. When I had graduated from college, I was out of college a few years, my mom passed away suddenly. And I was not ready for that. I mean, you're never really ready, but I was not prepared and not ready for that. I had gone through, my childhood was not very great, and lots of drugs and alcohol and things that I've shared a little bit before. But nothing prepared me for losing my mom. Nothing prepared me for that. It was awful. And she passed away in the afternoon. I called Gina and I said, my mom passed away. Gina's newly married, not even a year, lives several hours away. And I just wanted to let her know that evening she showed up and she was present. I didn't ask her to leave her husband that she had just married not even a year ago, or leave her house 2+ hours away, and she was the manager at a coffee shop, to leave her job. I didn't ask for any of those things, but she showed up and she was present. And she stayed with me for that whole first week. And then we did a gathering for my mom, and then her parents came and her new husband came. And they were there, and Gina said, well, I don't want to leave you here because I don't think your family's going to help you and you're just going to lay in your bed. I want you to come back with me. So I came back with them, and I was here for a week, and in that week I ended up having a conversation about moving here and got a job in that week. And the Lord totally opened the door, but it was because I had a genuine friendship with someone that chose to be present, that chose to love me in my pain. Now, when we became friends, a little fun fact, we're very different, like night and day different. Like, I'm kind of like Tigger, especially in college, where it's like, hey, I'll be your friend. How's it going? What are you doing? Tell me about your dad. Do you have trauma going on in your life? Tell me about it. I want to hear. Like, that's really my vibe. Never met a stranger. I will be happy to come and meet you and have you pour out your heart and soul to me, and I love it. And Gina, when we met in college, I thought she was 12 years old, first of all. She was way more quiet, way more reserved. I remember she was sitting on the floor, and actually Kim Ellis went to school with us too. I thought she was there to drop off Kim Ellis. And she was so quiet and so reserved and kind of kept to herself, was not loud, doesn't want the spotlight, and she's still all of those things. But I remember we actually didn't care for one another in the first few days. I think because I was overwhelming to all the introverts out there, when you see me coming, you're like putting your head down, like, please don't talk to me, please just keep going, keep going, keep going. But that's just like, it was kind of like that little bit of like, not a fan, okay. But we very quickly, within the first couple of weeks, became great friends. And anyway, time went on and here we are. But there is sometimes that friction that we experience in friendship. And even in Proverbs 27:17, it says, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. That friction can really be a good thing sometimes because it helps sharpen us. It helps sharpen us. A quote by Timothy Keller on friendship, when he's talking about how to make friends and how we get there, about being present. Friendship takes incredibly deliberate amounts of intentionally spent time over time. Friendship takes incredibly deliberate amounts of intentionally spent time over time. You have to be present to do that. The next thing and the final thing is you gotta be patient. If you think like, we're telling you about life groups, we really want you to sign up because we know the value of community, the value of relationship, but you gotta be patient. If you think you're gonna meet someone here today or you're gonna go and join a life group and then all of a sudden you guys are getting BFF matching life group tattoos, probably not going to happen. Maybe in the 3rd or 4th week, depending on how deep you go, But that's probably not going to happen. And if it does happen, we would just ask that you would kindly consider getting the MCC logo tattoo to represent for us. But it takes time. It takes patience. The second time in my life when I really noticed I really am longing for friendship and relationship. So after college, I got offered a position at a church, New Hope Church in Manteca. And I loved the pastor. He was one of our adjunct professors. He was also a pastor that had baptized me, and he was writing an autobiography for Jack Hayford. So I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Jack Hayford is a Foursquare guy. I know it's AG Church. But anyways, I was very excited that I was offered this position. So I moved there after college. Now, college for me was a very unique, special experience. I pray and wish that our kids today could have this kind of experience that I did. I know times have changed. But when I was in college, like you go to this place, I grew up in a non-Christian home. My family weren't Christians. I went to a very non-Christian high school. Like I was not surrounded with Christians unless I was at church or hanging with my friends who were from church. So I go to Bible college. And all of a sudden, I'm with hundreds and hundreds of people who think like I think, who love the Lord, who I think are great people. I mean, you could literally walk into a friend's room and you'd be like, oh, I'm having a really bad day. And they would pray for you, or they would do something sweet for you. It was such a cool, special experience and time. And you're kind of forced into that community because it's like you move there, you're all doing the same thing, so you have that point of connection. And then if you work on campus, I had a job and I worked on our school campus, then you're working with those people. Well, then we had the cafeteria on campus, and then you're eating with those people, and then you're going to class with those people, and when you do have free time, you're actually spending time with those people. So it was a really wonderful, wonderful experience, and again, I wish that our kids could have it today because it was awesome, and it was so unique and special. But I had that great 4 years, and then I moved to a place where, again, I don't know anyone. And I remember literally driving in my car crying because I was like, Lord, if I don't even have a friend's house that I can go to right now to hang out with, like, crying. I'm not a huge crier, you guys. I know I talked about it a couple times, but anyway, so I'm crying, driving through this little old town Manteca, sad because I have no friends that I can go hang out with. And that was after leaving this incredibly great community. You gotta be patient. It takes time. So I found myself accepting invitations to do things I normally wouldn't do. At Manteca, they have a lot of almond orchards. Someone invited me to their almond orchard party, and I went. I don't want to go to almond orchard parties, but I did it. You find yourself doing things that you normally wouldn't choose to do because you want so much to have a relationship with people, and you need so much to have a relationship with people. It took about 2 years for me to really cultivate this wonderful community, ended up being part of a church plant. And it was basically another community where you're living with these people, you're doing life. We're going to watch so-and-so play rugby. I don't know the rules of rugby. I don't know why these men are bashing into each other without helmets and pads. The guy gets his jaw broken, but I'm there watching because I'm trying to be present and do all the things to be patient, to cultivate these friendships. And they became very dear friends to me, but we have to be patient. You're not going to sign up for a life group, most likely. If you do, awesome. I'd love to be proven wrong. And be besties. That takes time. It takes life. It takes experience. It takes showing up for one another. It takes being there for one another. And the danger that we can kind of run into at church is it's so easy for us to come Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. And I'm guilty too. Sunday after Sunday, say, hey, how's it going? Hope you're doing good. Good to see you. How's the family? And then we leave this building, and then we don't see or talk to these people until next Sunday or next Wednesday. And then we do the same thing again. Hey, good to see you. Give me a hug. High five. Glad you're here. And that isn't exactly real, genuine relationship. It's great to see the faces, but it takes more than that. Kenneth Bailey is a scholar and theologian, and in his book that I was reading for our women's Bible study, he says, which I thought was interesting in studying for this message, he says, it's easy in any age to have long, continued dealings with a person and still never accept that person fully into fellowship. It's easy in any age to have long, continued dealings with a person and still never fully accept that person into fellowship. And it is dangerous for us because we can get caught up doing that here, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. We have to be willing to do life with one another outside of this building and outside of the hours of 10:15 to 12 o'clock. And that's why we believe that it's so important for us to be part of life groups. Life groups are not the be-all, end-all, you guys. But we want you to plug in and make relationship with one another. I want you to plug in and make relationship with me because like you, I am busy. And like you, I have social media. And like you, I'm not always authentic. But I want to be. And I want to invest in you, and I want to get to know you, and I want to get to know your stories. And I'm sure you'd say the same of me and everyone else, but it takes us being intentional to do that. Remember, Jesus was with his disciples for about 3 years, the people that he did daily life together. And in John 15, 12 through 15, what does Jesus say to them? He says, "This is my command. Love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you." What did he just command? That you love one another. I don't call you servants anymore, because a servant doesn't know what his master is doing. I have called you friends, because I've made known to you everything that I've heard from my Father. It matters who your friends are. It matters who your friends are. Bad company corrupts good character. And even parents, when you have kids and your kid is hanging out with another bad kid, what do we say to them? I don't want you to hang out with that kid because that kid's a bad influence. It matters. It doesn't change when we get older, guys. It matters who we hang out with. It matters who we choose to let in. For me, I would say my friends have really saved my life. And I don't mean literally, and I don't mean my salvation, but I mean they're the people who have been Jesus to me with skin on. They're the people that have showed up to help me move. They're the people that have showed up to help celebrate new homes, new jobs, new exciting adventures. They're the people who have showed up with me and cried with me when my mom passed away or in any heartache that I've had. They're the people that show up to take me if I'm having surgery. The church has showed up for me time and time and time again. You have showed up for me time and time and time again. How do we love one another? Remember, that's what Jesus tells his disciples. Hey, do you know how the world is going to know that you're mine, that you belong to me? How's the world supposed to know that? By our love for one another. That's how we look different. How do they show up for each other? Wow, they're really there for one another when something goes down. Wow, they really came around them like a community and helped them out. We're supposed to look different than the world by how we love one another, by how we show up for one another. I want to invite the worship team up. And I want to invite our prayer partners to go to the side of the building. If you need prayer for anything today, we have prayer partners at the side of the building. If you need an altar call because you've been a terrible friend, we have the altar. I'm just teasing, guys. But I'm inviting them up. If you need prayer for anything, go to the side of the auditorium. But I want to end with this. In the Bible, we see in a couple of stories 2 different kinds of friends. One time there's 2 men who need healing. And they have 2 sets of people around them and 2 very different experiences. One man is blind Bartimaeus. Remember the story? Blind Bartimaeus is standing in a crowd. The people, he wants to know what's happening. He's blind, he can't see. And they say, oh, Jesus is walking by. And blind Bartimaeus says, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, because he wants to be healed. He's blind. What do his friends around him say? Do you remember? The Bible says they sternly rebuke him and tell him to be quiet. This man needs healing. The healer is walking by. He's calling out, have mercy on me. And his friends tell him, be quiet, and they rebuke him sternly. And there's a different story in the Bible, and these are true. There's a different story in the Bible about a man who can't walk. And he also needs healing. And I want to look at this to see what his friends did for him. And it's in Luke 5:18 through 20. And some men were carrying on a bed a man who was paralyzed. And they were trying to bring him in to set him down in front of him, being Jesus. But not finding any way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went on the roof and let him down through the tiles with his stretcher into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. Seeing their faith, he said, friends, your sins are forgiven. This set of friends saw their friend needing healing, and he couldn't bring himself to Jesus. And there are times when you and I will not be able to bring ourselves to Jesus for whatever reason. Who you pick around you matters. Pick the people that will bring you to Jesus when you cannot bring yourself. And they will show up for you, and they will make a way for you. This morning, my challenge to all of us is to be real with each other. Be present with each other. And let's be patient so that we can build and cultivate these friendships, being surrounded by one another who will bring us to Jesus when we can't do it ourselves.